Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello and welcome to another edition of BL Podcast, and we are going to discuss about the state of digital economy. And this month we thought we'll discuss something that is creating waves in India, especially with the arrival of Tim Cook, Chief Executive Officer of Apple. Apple, as you all know, has been ramping up and scaling up their presence in India over the last 5 to 6 years. Tim Cook has been placing some bets on manufacturing, engaging with developers, and most recently, opening up of retail outlets. To discuss this, I have with me today Ayushi, who's our on-ground reporter, who's been extensively covering Apple over the last year or so. And we also have Shilpi Jain, who's an analyst with Counterpoint Technology Market Research. So welcome, Shilpi and Ayushi. So first, Ayushi, we'll start with you. You've been covering Apple for a year. Can you give us a quick summary of what they've been up to and what are you seeing on ground?
Yeah, so for the past year, you can actually start to see that Apple's kind of growth journey has started to gain momentum in how they are thinking about retail in India, as well as from the production side of things. So for context, Apple carries a very small piece of their global pie when it comes to India, where as far as sales are concerned, or even when production is concerned. At present, we are at around 5% of their global sales. So it's not a very huge kind of market share that India really carries, although there has been some indications or green shoots of momentum that we have started to see over the last year or so. So which is why even if you look at, let's say, smartphone sales kind of declining in India, you're still seeing Apple being really resilient to those trends in India as the appetite for Apple products has started to grow massively over the last couple of years. It is in this context that we are seeing Tim Cook's arrival to India, where the appetite for Apple products, as well as a focus at India from a perspective of manufacturing, is starting to be something on Apple's playbook. Apple usually manufactures a majority of its products in China, but because of the kind of strained relationships that they are having with China from a geopolitical context between US and China, as well as the kind of supply chain disruptions that the company is seeing in their global supply chain as far as China is concerned, Apple is also starting to feature really prominently in India when it comes to manufacturing. And you are kind of seeing it in the kind of reports that are emerging of how much Apple wants to manufacture in India, which is something that is a very significant target that we are seeing in conversation when people talk about Apple. Like there are some reports where it suggests by JP Morgan, etc., where it suggests that Apple wants to move 25% of its supply chain to India in a context where China was kind of carrying the majority. So in the last year or so, you're starting to see a lot of interest or a lot of investments and general momentum to shift manufacturing coming from a lot of Apple's contract manufacturers here as a result of what the global strategy appears to be. So Foxconn, which is one of the biggest contract manufacturers in the world, has made investment plans to invest around $700 million in India in order to sort of bolster manufacturing here. You're also seeing Tata Group, which is looking at getting a piece of the Apple manufacturing pie in India, which is why we reported that they have acquired Wistron's manufacturing facilities in India and sort of get into the iPhone manufacturing business as well. And you are also seeing the government kind of really encourage this sort of interest that Apple is trying to show for India. Like you will see Vaishnav our minister regularly laud the fact that Apple is India is becoming a major point of interest as far as manufacturing is concerned in India. There's generally regulatory interest in trying to get this target achieved. We have subsidies, etc., in place that and incentive targets that are in place in our country that Apple is regularly meeting. Or at least their contract manufacturers who are assembling these phones and all these products. So it is within this context that Tim Cook has sort of arrived to the country, and there are hopes that the government, Apple, etc., have to sort of further build on this momentum, both on the retail side, which is where you're seeing the launch of the stores, as well as on the manufacturing side, to really achieve this dream of becoming a major part of Apple's general playbook globally.
Right. You touched upon this whole aspect of China. So yesterday I met Tim Cook in Bombay, and one of the questions that was posed to him was exactly this: whether he sees India as a alternative to them pulling out of China or partial exit from China. He kind of ducked the question and he responded by saying that India will have its own path of journey, and both countries will have their own identities, and so he didn't really comment on that. So Shilpi, I want to bring you here. Is all that Apple doing here in India a factor of deleveraging from China, or do you think that India on its own provides Apple a great opportunity to grow, especially because some of their existing markets like the US and Europe are kind of saturated?
So I agree with you. So, India provides a huge growth potential of its own to Apple. So basically, we are seeing a global slowdown in, smartphone market. The top markets like China and US are more of being saturated. So it means, the growth potential remains low there. Whereas India, we are seeing that premiumization trend has just started, and it's going with a strong momentum. So it shows that how much unpenetrated this market still remains, and that's the growth potential that it has for any global player. If we look at Apple, this COVID-19, the pandemic changed a lot of things, around the globe. So after pandemic, people realized, big players realized that it's not actually a very good decision to have reliance on one country for majority of your production or supplies. So basically, now global players like Apple are looking for diversification, so that their operations didn't get hindered, and that's the reason that Apple is also looking for diversification. And if we look at scale and consumer base, India seems to be the best alternative after China for any player. So that's I believe that's the reason that it's not like that. Okay, like you said, Tim Cook said that India will have its own journey of growth. So I believe he rightly said it, because both countries have their own merits and demerits. And as of now, India remains very strategic from Apple point of view, because if you look at top 5 markets, iPhones have the smallest share in India, despite being despite having a huge consumer base. So what's going on, since India has been a country where basically price sensitive country, we have middle class, and affordability remains an issue. However, now what's happening is, due to your various promotions, offers, and push from brand sides through various schemes like financing schemes, so it's making premium devices affordable to larger section of society. And that's why we saw that in 2022, where the overall smartphone market struggled, the premiumization trend continued, and the premium market grew in double digits. And the similar trend we are seeing for next few years. So what we believe as of now, India is in terms of premium market, or in terms of sales of iPhones, India is not up to the level of China and US. However, we believe in coming 3-4 years, the growth will be multifold, and it will be closer to those economies as well.
Right. So I want to just take you on that issue of affordability and pricing, which is, as you rightly said, is something which is very relevant for the Indian market. Are you seeing a trend in the last few years, ever since Apple, brought in these EMI schemes and other, basically local manufacturing, they've been able to cut down on costs? Are you seeing a trend where, the number of people, or the people who are buying iPhones, are not always the premium segment? Are you seeing, say, the upper middle class also now getting into that iPhone category?
Yes, Thomas. So we are observing this trend. So what's happening now? Consumer behavior is changing in India, in India's smartphone market. So now consumers have really become smart. They know now, they have understood that there are regular these promotional periods. So we know we have festive season around 1.5 month when Diwali comes. We have Republic Day sale. We have Independence Day sale. We have Christmas New Year sale. So and the offers, the frequency of offers and the magnitude of offers kind of remains similar. That okay, we know the best discounts we'll get during Diwali season. So now consumer has understood this thing, and now what's happening? The demand is being concentrated around those promotional events. So usually what we are observing, consumer wholesale purchases for that period, and whenever these kind of promotions come, they make their purchases. So we have seen a trend of demand increasing significantly around these events, and while it's remaining sluggish around other periods, that's the trend that we are noticing from last year. Now what's happening with Apple? So Apple, when Apple started manufacturing in India, basically increased its base of manufacturing in India. So from 2020, what we saw that, obviously there was saving of cost. However, we did not see that Apple, passing on that benefit to customers directly, as the prices of new launches and the prices of models remain same. However, what we observed that there was an increase in the frequency and the magnitude of offers and discounts that the brand offered around these promotional periods. So basically, Apple rightly picked up this trend in India market even before it started, and enjoyed the benefits of being the first one to pick up that trend. And what happened that since Apple remains an aspirational brand for Indians. So yesterday, the kind of crowd, long queue since night and loud cheers, it shows the craze of brand among fans. However, price point was the main affordability was the main hindrance for a lot of first time iPhone users, or the upper middle class, like you rightly said, who wants to upgrade to iPhones. But after these promotions, it became possible for these consumers to get onto Apple ecosystem. Last month, only in January, we saw Apple, launched a financing scheme with HDB, where people could get an iPhone with zero down payment at no cost EMI, with the 24 months of EMI, and we saw a significant growth in offline market during that month. So this shows that these promotions and financing schemes are really working in favor of premium phones, as larger section of society is now able to purchase those premium phones because they don't need to pay at upfront. So a lot of schemes are coming, and we conduct retail surveys as well. So what we got to know from retailers, that what's happening now, since the targets are also have been a value driven, are based on revenue now instead of volumes. So even they push higher price smartphones to customers.
So like when you talk about financing, that appears to be a lot similar to what, let's say, Apple strategy also has been in Europe, etc., where they are where people do buy phones through financing schemes and tie-ups with telcos, etc. So do you see, and that is one of the reasons why Apple is kind of ubiquitous as a brand when it comes to these particular places where almost everyone has an Apple product with them. Do you see that kind of pervasiveness for Apple when it comes to a particular segment of, let's say, premium smartphone? Will they be able to beat out Samsung for that, from that perspective, and become the most dominant kind of brand in the premium segment or the mid-premium segment based on these trends?
like what as of now, Apple is not present in affordable premium segment that we call it. That is 30 to $45,000 segment. They have kind of exited that segment and now focusing on ultra premium segment. That is your greater than INR 45K. So as per our estimate, Apple has already been a dominant brand in the overall premium segment from the last 2 years. If we talk, in 2022, iPhone 13 was the best selling model, not just in premium segment, but in the overall smartphone market, as per our trackers. So it's growing at a very robust pace, and not just in terms of shipments as well as exports. So like you talked about manufacturing. As per our estimates, Apple manufacturing grew 65% Y on Y in 2022. And majority of that growth came from exports, since exports are more than doubled. So that's why, we can say that how India is actually a major focus for Apple, because the huge growth potential remains here. And it's not just focusing on for local consumption, but it's actually looking at India, making it an export hub as well. So it's already exporting to European countries and South Asian countries.
Right. So do you think there are some headwinds? Because when you look at the kind of conversation that Apple executives are trying to promote this time around, they really are very mum on the China issue. Like Tim Cook skirted the question, and generally there hasn't been too much focus on that particular side. Do you think that there are any headwinds that Apple could be potentially seeing when it comes to manufacturing, or even on the retail side, to be honest, with like the CCI is set to come out with their judgment on Apple's app store policies. So are those things going to create some sort of deterrent when it comes to the retail side of things, or on the manufacturing side of things, where they are seeing any uncertainty?
If we look at retail, Apple had plans to open the retail store earlier. However, earlier the hindrance was Indian government policy on single brand retail FDI, which it actually relaxed in 2019 for brands like Apple, so that they could enter India market in retail as well. However, due to pandemic, the plans got delayed. What's happening in India market after pandemic, we saw an uptick trend of online, because people were reluctant to buy offline. There were lockdowns, and then there was change in consumer mindset. However, from last year, when we didn't saw any major lockdowns or restrictions in offline market is growing. And if you when we say premiumization trend is going on, so consumers in premium market, they prefer to have that touch and look feel of the product before making before buying, before spending so much on a product. So in those terms, Apple store would be a great way for the brand to connect with its consumer directly. So opening a store in the offline market, opening a retail store, is not necessarily about increasing sales. It's more about strengthening brand image and enriching consumers' purchase experience.
Right. Do you think they should be wary of what the Competition Commission of India has? Because Apple is also trying to focus on the developer ecosystem in India. So within that context, you had Mr. Tim Cook meet developers yesterday, but at the same time, you have that CCI judgment that is kind of looming at the back of their head. The CCI is set to decide what they think of Apple's App Store policies. So, is there anything there that is a cause of worry for Apple?
What I believe that it will not have that major impact on Apple. First is a lot of Apple third-party retailers were concerned that their sales will be affected after that opening of retail store in India. However, what we have seen in the past as well. So when the Apple, opened its own e-store in India, people were like that, okay, it might impact Amazon and Flipkart sales, and Apple will be providing more discounts on its own e-store and will be promoting its own e-store. But that kind of thing didn't happen. So like you rightly said, Apple is focusing on developing its own ecosystem. So basically it wanted to get more people on its ecosystem. They get more people to buy an iPhone, they get more people to develop an ecosystem for them. They can upsell, cross sell, there are other products like MacBooks, watches, AirPods, etc. And then they can sell other services like Apple Care Plus, iCloud, etc. However, so what I believe that we have to see how that investigation would be going forward, because investigation is currently going on from that anti-competition trial that you are saying. So that we have to see how it will go on. But right now, we believe it will not impact Apple to that great extent that the way it has impacted Google, because I think it's not that we believe there will be parity in offers. Apple will abide by the laws of government, and there will be parity in offers provided through other resellers and through Apple stores. What we believe, maybe it will be like that situation that we might experience more bundling kind of offers at their own store, while there will be more offers in terms of discount and bank offers through their resellers.
So just a concluding question, Apple has a target to, or like there was a JP Morgan report that sort of said that internally Apple is mulling a target of a 25% shift in production to India by 2025. Is that something that's realistic for Apple to do?
Yeah, it could happen. So like we saw that, like you rightly said, that from less than 1%, Apple India's contribution to their global manufacturing is 5%. And in recent months only, we have seen exports actually more than doubled. And they're the new factory is being set up for Foxconn, and they are expanding their capacities. So I think capacity is not an issue, and since exports are also rising, it is possible.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Shilpi and Ayushi. I think it was a great chat. We'll have to see how Apple's strategy plays out in India market, given that it's basically an Android market as of now, and middle class kind of buyers. So let's see if their strategies and their bets pay off.
Thanks so much.